So it's award season time and the AA Ireland Car Awards are coming soon, and this one just might be in contention for some. It's the BMW i4 and it's very good. So I have a bit of an affinity with the BMW brand because they were the cars that I spent my own money on. And there's a couple that I really regret selling. One, in fact, is the 318iS E30 that I sold a few years ago, which if I still had now would be worth multiples of what I sold it for. But when it came to BMW electric vehicles, perhaps the brand started too early and were trying to be a bit too clever with the i3, a car that lots of people loved but never really took off, and of course is now gone. So before we go on, please do give this video a like if you do like it, subscribe to the AA Ireland YouTube channel, and of course hit that bell icon to stay in touch with all of our latest video releases. And now, all of a sudden, BMW is producing electric cars at a rapid pace. And this one just might be the most important of them all. It's the BMW i4, and of course it's based on the 4 Series Grand Coupe, and that gives it a wide appeal, especially to the fleet market. Remember, the 3 Series was the ubiquitous executive car, and this is its spiritual electric replacement. A lot of the talk about BMW of late, of course, surrounds the styling, and this front grille is controversial. It's not as controversial as some of the other models, in particular the i7, but this i4 has a very big dominant grille now. On a black car like this, you can't really see it, and it is broken up styling wise by the registration plate. But overall, for me, this car looks amazing. I just think it looks so good. It's muscular, it's angular, it's well proportioned. You know, these are 19-inch wheels on this M Sport version, and they just fit the arches beautifully. I wouldn't have any bigger. These are an optional extra, but they are standard on the M50 version. Plus a lot of other things are standard too, but more on that later. Overall, the dimensions of the car are obviously very similar to the 4 Series Grand Coupe, but it is just a very, very pretty car. Back towards the rear of the car, you have this sloping roofline because it's the Grand Coupe. And at the back, you have a decent sized boot. It's 470 litres of space here. It's in here where it really does feel like a BMW. It's very familiar to anyone who's either sat in or owned a BMW before, because it has that nice sit up and beg driving position. And of course, like so many cars these days, in particular EVs, it's dominated by screens. And in this model we have the 2 conjoined twins of screens, because there are 2 screens which are joined together and give the impression of one wide screen that goes across the whole dashboard. So you have a 14 and a bit inch screen for the touchscreen infotainment and a 12.3 inch screen for your standard instruments for your dials. Overall, it works very well. It is a variation on what was the familiar iDrive system. So there is a jog dial, and you can go through menus using this, but of course it's also touchscreen too. There are a variety of shortcuts as well which you can add, which work really well. So instead of you having to go through menus, you can have a shortcut to go to your phone, a shortcut to go to navigation, and these do work really, really well. But of course, look, like any systems, because this has Apple CarPlay, because it has Android Auto, you will end up using that all the time. Certainly for me, I did. Now, this model is fitted with an expensive option, which is a Harman Kardon system. Plus, it also has a Technology Plus system, which gives a very, very impressive 360-degree camera, which is nice, but really for those who are just terrified of parking, because it gives you all angles from the car. But it is an expensive option. But again, it's one of those things that is cheaper on the more expensive M50 model. So BMWs are always known as being the ultimate driving machine. So they're cars that are designed to be enjoyed. So does putting an electric powertrain into a 4 Series Grand Coupe make it any less fun to drive? Well, the answer, just to get it out of the way, is no. This is probably the best driver's EV around this side of an Audi e-tron GT. It just feels beautiful. The steering is great, the handling is great, and it just has that feeling of being a normal ICE BMW with a big 6 or 8 cylinder engine. Such is the urgency and such is the power. This is not even the fast one. This is the 40. If you want all of the crazy power, you can have the M50 for about 80 grand. But this version starts at just about 65,500 euro, and this one, as it says here, is ending up about 76,000 euro with options on it. But it's 340 horsepower, 430 newton meters of torque. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour takes about 5.7 seconds. It's fast. I don't see why you would need it to go any faster, being honest. But there is an argument with the options list of this car. As you start adding things like leather, metallic paint, the wheels, which all come standard on the M50, you're about 4 grand away from the M50 version itself, which is an absolute rocket ship, over 540 horsepower and blistering pace. So if you're buying one of these, the 40, it might be that you stick to a more normal spec and don't go crazy with the options list, because then it stops making that much sense. Overall, the feel of this car is great. The steering weight is good, but the fit and finish, the things that are under your fingers, feel much better than, say, Tesla Model 3 and even a Polestar 2, which is a car I really like. It just feels, the quality is excellent, and even if you go down lower, it feels excellent. It's just a hard one to call, because this on paper is really good and the battery has been amazing. I've very seldom driven an electric car for a week and not plugged it in once, and that's been the case with this. It has an 80 kilowatt battery. WLTP range is 570. It's probably going to be about 450 on a full charge, which is still very, very impressive. So performance wise, it's a really long range car that's entertaining to drive. It's still comfortable. It's not overly heavily sprung. It's not too tight. It's not too hard and rigid. It's a comfortable car that has very familiar sports car handling. Okay, so where do I stand with this car? We need to have some conclusions, because look, you guys are trying to figure out what car to buy, and this is a big investment. You're talking about spending 65, 70,000 euro. Well, I'm probably not going to be that helpful, because this is probably, say, the best of the i4, Tesla Model 3 and Polestar 2. It's probably the best car from those three, but it's not necessarily the one I'd have. I would probably still stick to the Polestar 2, but just for me, that's the car I really like. This is a better driver's car. It feels better built. The interior's better. But for me, I'd still probably choose the Polestar, just a personal opinion. However, most people will buy the Tesla, because the Tesla has the cleverest tech. Now, it's not as nicely built, but it just seems to suit people. People love the tech. Kids love it. So if I brought this home to my family, or the Polestar home to my family, they'd be roaring and shouting at me because I didn't buy the Tesla. So while that's not helpful, what I will say is, if you are in the market for this, as I've said earlier, the options on the 40 are crazy. So if you start adding options, you may as well get the 50, which is a hyper performance car with over 540 horsepower. However, in conclusion, the i4 is excellent. It's very, very good. If you want an EV that is a performance car, that is a driver's car, this is it.